All right, fifth grade, happy Wednesday. We're actually going to do a little review today. We're going to look back to the 7 Years' War. All right, it's been a little bit of time since we have talked about some social studies, some American history in our class. And so today what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of pause, look back at the 7 Years' War. What was it? Why was it important? All right, and then hopefully tuck that back into the back of our mind and be able to move forward starting next week. Okay, so first thing is first. We have 3 slides here today. Everything that I write down, I want you to write down as well. So first, why was the 7 Years' War fought? Okay, that's a long time. 7 years for a war, it's a pretty long time. So why was this war fought in the first place? And so what you see here on this map is kind of the east coast of the United States. So right here where my mouse is, this is New York City. Looks like, I think this is, and that's very small, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I think Pittsburgh is about, or Philadelphia is down in here. Washington, D.C. is right here. That's our nation's capital. Virginia, North Carolina, right here in this kind of bluer area of the map, this is an area called the Ohio River Valley. All right, and that is actually why the war was fought. Okay, that was kind of a piece of land that neither the British or the French claimed. Nobody had a claim over it. Really, the only people that lived there were Native Americans. And the British wanted to take over that land, kick the Native Americans out, and the French wanted to kind of be part of that land too, and kind of live with Native Americans. So, here we go. First, the British fought the French for the Ohio River Valley. All right. So the British fought the French for the Ohio River Valley. That's what this war was. Okay. Now, back during this war, we had the colonies over here, right? Remember the colony that you picked? You talked about like New York, Georgia, whatever colony you picked. The people that lived in those 13 colonies were called colonists. And those colonists, so colonists is a word that means people that lived in the colonies. And those colonists, they helped the British. They were on the British side. And the Native Americans helped the French. Okay, so the colonists, the people that lived in the colonies, helped the British. And the Native Americans helped the French. Okay. This is important, of course, this top point up here. This is why the 7 Years' War was fought. But the second point here is actually probably more important because as we talk about American history, we don't talk very often about the British or the French. We do talk very often about the colonists and the Native Americans. All right, let's move on here. Now, what happened is the British win. The British win the war. They beat the French. They kick the French out of that area. Okay, the Ohio River Valley now belongs to the British, which means that it is theirs, and it does not belong to the French. Okay. Now, what's very important is what were some consequences of this war. Okay, and the word consequence means things that happen afterwards because of something. So because of the war, what happened afterwards? All right. Now, one of the most important thing is the British government, so the king and the queen, the parliament, people that were in charge of the British government. Because of this war, they lost tons of money. Tons of money. All right. So the 7 Years' War was actually a world war. It happened all around the world. It happened mostly in North America, the part that's the Ohio River Valley. It also happened a little bit in India, which is on the other side of the world. A little bit of fighting happened in the Caribbean, so like Puerto Rico, also in Africa. And so all of these places are very far away, and the British government was fighting in all of them. They were sending troops, they were sending supplies, making sure that they were going to win. That costs a lot of money. And so the British government lost a lot of money during this war. All right, now that is going to be one of the most important things right here that you can remember for the rest of the year. After the 7 Years' War, the British government, I don't want to say that they were broke, but they lost a lot of money. Okay. Another very important thing is the Native Americans do not trust the British. If you remember that the Native Americans wanted to side with the French, they did not want to side with the British because they knew that if they did, the British would win and they would take their land anyways. And so now that the British won, they're pretty skeptical. They do not trust the British. All right, so it's the consequences after the war. That's what happened. Now, we're going to pause here. We're going to kind of stop for a second. The war is over. The soldiers all go home. The Native Americans go back to where they live. The colonists go back to the colonies, and it's all good. Okay? Now, what was life like after this war? What was going on in the colonies, especially? Okay, so I will, here's a picture here of the colonies. Okay, so this is like the east coast of the United States today. For some reason, this map is in French. I don't know why. It's kind of strange. But, so these today we would call states, but back then we have the colonies. Back in 1770s, 60s, and 70s. What was life like after this war? Okay, so first, the colonists became very upset with the king. So the colonists, the people that lived in these colonies, were super upset at the king and queen. They were so mad, even though all of this war was over, for two reasons. First of all, they were getting big-time taxes. Okay, so their taxes were very high. They had to pay extra for things that seemed very basic, like paper, tea, things that are very important to the colonists' way of life. Okay. But really the most important thing is that they were getting taxed without getting a say in the British government. The king and queen were making their own decisions. The parliament were making their own decisions without asking anyone in the colonies. And so they thought, that's not fair. Why are we giving money to you for taxes if you're not even letting us say things that we think should happen? Right? So that's one reason why they were very upset. Okay? They were getting taxed without being able to tell the king and queen things that they wanted, things they needed, have any say in how things worked. Okay. And then number two, the last reason why they are so upset with this king, the colonists, the people that lived in the colonies, were so upset because they were not able to move into the Ohio River Valley. Now, if you remember, the colonists, the ones that are very upset right now, they helped the British win this land right here. They wanted to take this land from the French and eventually from the Native Americans. And really what they wanted to do was they wanted to take the Native Americans' land. They said, Native Americans, this is our land now. You need to get up, move, take all your things, and move. Right? Now, that's obviously a very terrible thing that they wanted to do. Right? But they were upset because the king said, you know what? I know you worked so hard in helping us to fight for this land right here. But you cannot move there because there are Native Americans there. And if you go try to move there, there's going to be battles. And there's going to be skirmishes and wars and things. And that means that we have to help you in those wars. And as the king, we do not have very much money. And so we are not going to let you move over there. Because if you do, then we have to pay money to help you win battles. Right? And so King says, no, you can't move over there. So these are really two main reasons why the colonists are so upset with the king. And we're going to start to see, this seems enough, right? These two reasons right here seem pretty bad. But what we'll start talking about in the next coming weeks And then when we start our new schedule on April 12th, we'll start talking about some other things the king does that really upset the colonists, and they're going to start kind of forming this idea that, maybe they should rebel. Maybe they should tell the king, you know what, you're not in charge of us anymore. And we'll see what happens after that. Okay? So, everybody, office hours today at 10:05, normal Google Meet times. Please make sure that your families sign up for conferences. And we will see you later.